2, 4, 6, 8, go. Oh my shit. A little bit zigzaggy. Oh. Wow. Oh, come on, Thomas. Can't get it to do it. Very James Bond style. It's actually turning. What? Welcome back to TCR, and today you join me with the all-new Kia EV9 GT line. This particular model starts at £73,245, which might seem absolutely ludicrous given that it's a Kia, but it only seems ridiculous because we're so used to paying expensive prices for things like Range Rovers, Mercedes GLCs, any big luxury 4x4 that's made from the Germans. But I think this is a perfect contender to completely disregard the Germans and focus on the Koreans, because this car is absolutely fantastic, to say the least. And I'm going to take you through it in this video, showing you a little bit more about how it works, how it operates, and exactly what you get for your 73 grand. But first of all, can I just give Kia absolute credit, because this thing looks absolutely fantastic. In fact, this is a very bold statement from me, and I don't say this lightly. I think this is the best looking SUV currently on the market in 2024. And I don't care what any of you say, that's my opinion, because it looks like an absolute stealth, futuristic, boxy automobile. For your £73,000, you get absolute luxury everywhere. First thing you'll notice is these huge 21-inch wheels. However, they're not alloy. They're actually plastic, but again, credit where credit's due. These look like alloy wheels, and they are very, very, very high quality for wheel trims. It seems to be the trend nowadays with these newer cars going forward that will put wheel trims on. Some people might disagree with that, but when they look as good as this, I think you can quite easily live with it. And if you scuff one of those, it's not going to cost you anywhere near as much money to replace as opposed to getting the wheel redone if it's diamond cut. You get electric folding mirrors, heated mirrors, parking sensors at the front, parking sensors at the back. There's no actual physical sill on this car, because when you open the door is the sill, and it hides everything and it looks nice and neat. If you come to the front, I want to take a moment to shed some light on these headlights, pardon the pun, but they are funky as funky can be. There's one continuous mould in this zigzaggy shape, and when you actually look at it from this point of view, it kind of takes inspiration from a lightning bolt. Now, I don't know whether that's what Kia have actually done with that, that's just my interpretation, but it certainly does look zigzaggy like a cartooned lightning bolt. Now, this white line down here is the daytime running light, and it is super bright and it looks very stealth when it's moving down the road. You also get 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 individual LEDs, which contribute to all the assisted high beam and everything else that goes on with the lights, and they just look fantastic. It's very out there, very stylish, and it's nice to see that car manufacturers nowadays are actually putting ideas out there that are a bit far forward and not playing it safe with things trying to age well. The other thing you get on the front is these hidden air vents. Now, when you're driving, they do pop up, again, very futuristic, very James Bond style DB5 thing, and the air goes through there to cool the batteries, and then when you park up, a little motor pops them down again. Again, it's just a nice little touch. It just screams premium and luxury. So come on then, let's get the granddad statistic out the way. How big is the boot? Well, first of all, the opening is massive. It's lovely and square. You've got a flush finish here, and there isn't really many obstacles with getting things in and out. Currently, the size of this boot is 330 litres. But before we make it bigger, there is one test that we need to carry out. Does it house a Tom Shorrock? A guy that's 6'3" from the north of England and could quite easily go on a diet, but chooses not to. Anyway, let's get in the boot and let's see if I can tuck my head back and will it close? Oh, it's going down. Well, it certainly does house a Tom Shorrock, but the reality is you cannot see me now because of this perfectly blacked out privacy glass. It certainly passes that test. Now, if that isn't enough for you, you can press these two buttons here and the back seats will fold forward. The headrests dip down and they fold perfectly flat into the floor. If that still isn't enough space for you, you can press these two buttons here and the middle seats fold forward, leaving you this huge space where I think you could quite easily fit a double mattress in. Now, this is one thing that I think is great about this car. Imagine you're at the beach, imagine it starts to rain, there's a coastal storm coming in and you want to have a picnic. Well, you can quite easily sit here, relax, and it looks like you're watching something through a TV or just a floor to ceiling glass window, because the opening is so square and so big it actually looks like a photo frame rather than you're looking at it through the boot of a car. One little niggle though when it comes to boot space is the middle row of seats. You cannot fold them back up electronically by pressing these buttons. All they do is release the catch, and this is where it gets slightly more annoying. Now I want to fold those up, I have to go to each side and bring them back up. It would be a nice touch if they folded back electronically, but it's massive, there's plenty of room, you've got this lovely carpeted finish and everything folds flat into the floor, so what more could you ask for? The other thing that I should mention is this car is absolutely littered with sockets and plug-in points. One that we need to pay particular attention to is this one here. It's a 16 amp 230 volt AC domestic socket. I'm not quite sure why it's 16 amps because a 13 amp plug is only rated at 13 amps, but to put it into perspective, you can boil a kettle from this, you can plug a 2 kilowatt heater into it if you was camping and you wanted a heater in the tent, you could inflate airbed, you could inflate inflatable kayaks. It is there for a purpose and it serves it well, so providing your car is fully charged and the battery is available, you can power things like domestic household appliances. You could even plug a hairdryer into this, and if I had a hairdryer, I would demonstrate it. I just want to take a quick look at the back of the car because I really do like this design. I love the lights either in like a cross or like a positive sign if you look at it that way. All to do with electricity, you know, positive and negative, resistance, neutral, all that sort of stuff. You get this massive, huge spoiler with a lovely brake light in there. Camera's mounted up here, and the best thing is the rear wiper is tucked up there, out the way, so it's not here on show. It's just a sleek looking thing, a big boxy car, and it has a very large presence on the road. Now, if you saw my review of the EV6 GT line, you'll know my frustrations with something that these new car manufacturers are called in a frunk, or frunk if you're American, which is basically a trunk in the frunk, hence why it's called a frunk. So if we actually pop this up, one thing that I do think is really good is it actually opens like a boot rather than a bonnet. So if we lift it up, there's no silly catch that you've got to get. It comes up on hydraulic rams. Looks a lot prettier. You've got room for your charging cables. Not the biggest of things, I must add, but it's a functional frunk. It looks a lot prettier than just seeing all engine components and cables everywhere. The only thing is though, Kia, you still haven't listened to me. It isn't a fridge. Come on, be leaps and bounds ahead, just like this car is. Make it a fridge, just so we can go camping and, you know, put all our meats in there and our beers in there. I did say last time it would be annoying with the jingle in the front, but surely that would make more sense to double up as a fridge or a frunk. But all in all, I cannot complain because it's massively improved and it looks a hell of a lot prettier. Now you can configure the back of this car in two different ways. You can have a 7-seat setup, which is like this, where you have 2 in the front, 3 in the middle and 2 in the back. Or if you want a little bit more room and that extra comfort, you can have a 6-seat configuration where it's 2 in the front, 2 in the middle and 2 in the back. This is obviously the 7-seat configuration, but getting in room-wise is absolutely perfect. This seat here is currently set up for how I drive, and I'm quite a tall guy. I'm touching nearly 6'4". Every little inch matters, remember that. And there's plenty of leg room, very comfortable. The leather on these seats is absolutely amazing. It feels so luxury, it smells perfect. You've got a lovely little armrest here that folds down. You can put 2 cups in there. Nothing too fancy with that. You've got heated and air conditioned seats in this model, so you can press the button there for heat, you can press it there for air conditioning. Climate controls are all up here in the roof. You've got little vents that you can angle towards you and close off, but everything's digitally controlled. You have 1 above each passenger in the middle and 1 above each passenger in the rear. Now you can actually move the passenger seat forward in front of you by pressing this button here. They've got them in the side so you don't have to climb out and get in the back. Like I say, the only annoying thing is if you're at the boot, you do have to get out and fold these up manually. It would be nice if you could just do it by the button. Two little places here for your magazines. You've got like a little pocket down there, nothing too fancy. Two cup holders there, USB-C charging points here. And like I say, it's a very nice place to be. The other thing you also get in the back are these blinds here, which are a little bit fiddly to you. Can I get it in? Wow, you're meant to be good with your hands. Just nice for added privacy, or maybe you've got a child in the back and you don't want the sun coming through the windows doing them any damage. Nice little carpet feature here, lovely cushioned feel, and then the headrest for the driver in front is a bit like a trampoline. It's like a suspended thing. Grab handles here and here to get in and out. It's just a fantastic car. It's a fantastic place to be. Which brings me on to say, what is it like in the back of this car? Because the reality is, it's most probably going to be children sat in there. Anyway, let's open the door and let's find out. You can actually push these seats forward from 2 points. You have a button up here, which does that, and you have a button down there. But as it brings it all forward, it's very easy to step in. You're greeted by plenty of room at the moment, and the seats are comfortable. You can also recline them back if that's not enough. In fact, wow, they actually do go quite far back if you want some extra back support or you want to lie down, because sitting in the back of a car like this, obviously, they're quite tight spaces. They're not the most comfortable. If I just pull this forward, oh dear, wow. So I'm currently in here now. My legs are currently sat across to the other seat, but the only way to adjust, do I do it if I pull this cord? Nope. The only way to move that seat forward is to get the person in front to do it. Again, it's very, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that is slightly annoying that those seats don't remember where I set them before I got in the back. Again, probably a little improvement that could be added there, but again, comfortable space, plenty of room, can't really moan apart from that. A spacious car. First things first, when you get inside this car, everything feels premium and luxurious. Want to pay particular attention to this steering wheel. Most steering wheels are 3-spoke or even 2-spoke, but this one is 4-spoke. You've got a nice line of buttons through the middle and you've got a nice line at the bottom. Everything is controlled from here. You've got your lane departure, your cruise control, your adaptive cruise control, voice control, obviously your favorite button, telephone, terrain mode, because it's got hill descent assist, and obviously if you're going off-road, because this car is all-wheel drive. Drive modes are also selected here. You've got flappy paddles for your regen and how much you want it to be inactive and active. You've got a few little controls down here, which is your hill descent control, auto hold, cameras, parking. You do get physical buttons in this car, which is absolutely fantastic, because touch buttons can be an absolute pain in the rear whilst you're driving, and there is some sort of hidden buttons on the dashboard where it just says the word and you touch it. They do get quite irritating, because when you're driving you tend to steady your hand on the dash and lean over and you end up pressing the wrong button. Heated and air conditioned seats in the front, obviously. Electric seats, driver and passenger. Very, very comfortable car. Nice little cubby here with cup holders, and if you want to actually use the cup holders, press a button and it pops these little rings round for you to put your cups in. They do pass the bottle test. I have had a full bottle of Evian water in there. You've also got a wireless charging pad here with an NFC sort of card reader. Down here, you've got USB-C. You've got a 12-volt outlet, which you push, and it's 180 watt, just like the one in the rear. So there's two down there, and you've got a huge digital dash in front of you, which is actually segregated into 3 screens, but it looks like one because it's got a full piece of glass covering the 3. The other thing is you can also drive this car by the key. So if you're particularly bad at parking, you can pull the car forward. I just simply hold the forward button with a few creaky brakes and the thing comes forward. It actually stops as well if there's an obstacle in the way, as you can see. Look at that, it just will refuse to hit you. But that alone is a mega feature. It'll do it at the back as well. Brakes are very squeaky. As you can imagine, the cameras are trying to see exactly what's going on with the car. But if I just walk in the way, whoa! The thing is though, who's liable? Because if that hits you or somebody, nobody's driving apart from this key. I suppose it's you because you're operating it. Anyway, with that said, let's jump in and hit the road and see how it drives. The first thing that I want to do with this car is test the acceleration. Now the 0 to 60 we'll get to, but if I just put it into sport mode, all the seats you'll feel grippier. I don't think it's got launch, so I'm just going to foot on the brake, left foot brake, I'm going to foot on the accelerator, and 3, 2, 1, go. Oh my shit. And there we go, that's 60. Oh, that is very fast for a car this big. So the 0 to 60 of this car is 5.4 seconds. It has 378 bhp, but 700 Newton meters of torque. And that is why you've seen me absolutely go back in my seat. It pulls very well. There isn't a lot of wallowiness when going through corners. It is all-wheel drive, that's why there was no wheel spin as we set off. And it is a very comfortable car. And as you can see, when you want to put your foot down, it's quick when you want it to be. With the GT line, you do get a slightly higher range than you do with the GT line S. Now, it is estimated that with this car, city driving, you'll get around 410 miles. But to be honest with you, I started today with 92% battery in this car, and it was on 213 miles, and that's what we're on now. So the 400, I'd be very surprised if you got that, especially with the cold weather here in the UK. Obviously, when it's sunny, nice warm weather, your batteries aren't working as hard, and you do get more range. But for a car that's very big, has a large presence on the road, huge wide bonnet, the visibility down there is mega. It just looks amazing. And I do think these look 10 times better than any other SUV on the road at the moment. It also has collision avoidance assist, all that jazz. You can change the way the car drives, you can go into configurability. It's got Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, all that jazz, but it is a very responsive car. The thing that most people struggle with EVs is the range. Now, if you buy a petrol or a diesel car and you fill it up with fuel, you probably get around 400 miles out of the tank as a minimum. Some cars like the BMW 7 Series, they'll do like 700-800 miles onwards. Now, if you buy an electric car, 200 miles seems to be the happy medium, or 250 miles, which is a lot, because when you think about it, I live in Manchester and I'm currently down in Newbury now, and this was 220 miles from my doorstep. So if I drove nice and calm on the motorway, chances are I would get here on one charge. If you go into city driving, that is where EVs come to life. Because of the regenerative braking, you actually gain range rather than lose it. The problem with going on a motorway is you're constantly accelerating, there's a lot of wind hitting you, and let's face it, this car isn't the most aerodynamic car that you can possibly see. It's very square, very boxy, but I'm happy with that because I would much rather sacrifice a bit of range for having a better looking car. Most EVs tend to look boring nowadays and don't really offer flamboyant, boxy looks, or, you know, it's a very manly looking car, this. Whereas if you look at the Mercedes EV range, they're very rounded, they're just not as pretty. And I think the Koreans are absolutely killing it at the moment because Kia have some fantastic cars on the market, this being one of them. However, with it being £73,000, do I think it's worth that sort of money? Well, being a tight northerner from Manchester, we never think anything's value for money unless you're buying a pint for £4. So 73 grand for a Kia, is it expensive? Well, that is the issue. It's 73 grand for a Kia. Now, if you're new to Kia and this is the first car you'd seen, you'd be like, do you know what, that is really nice. However, if you're a bit of a petrol head like me and you've followed Kia for years, all of the old cars have been very boring, very affordable, and you've never really given them a look in unless you were buying something on a budget. But Kia have really stepped it up at the moment, and everything is luxury. So I think they're positioning themselves in a different place in the market. And 73 grand for an EV9, is it a lot of money? Yes, it is. Do I think it's worth it? I absolutely do. I would buy this over a Range Rover Sport, Land Rover Defender, Mercedes GLC. I'd pick this every time because it is lovely. It is a fantastic car. I really like the looks of it. And you know what? I am impressed. And when you do want to give it a bit of punch and poke, it just picks up like you wouldn't believe. There is no noise. You get a little whirring noise like most EVs, but when you really want to put your foot down, this thing does not half shift. Throws you back in your seat. Oh, it's just a different way of driving. Now don't be alarmed by the 73 grand price tag, because Kia offer another trim level that's way cheaper than this one. But is it just as good? So I've just been back to the hotel and I've now swapped into this, which is the Kia EV9 Air. Now when you first look at it, there isn't that much that is different from the outside, apart from the wheels being smaller and a few little things going on at the front end. Now you seriously do have to hand it to Kia, because even though this car is £15,000 cheaper than the GT Line S model, from the outside they haven't put any cheapo plastics that are not body coloured, that are not gloss black, and it still looks like a very expensive car. The main thing is the wheels on this one are 19 inch and on the GT line they were 21 inch. The other thing with this car is the range is significantly better. However, the horsepower is down and so is the torque. So the GT line was 378 bhp with 700 newton meters of torque, and this one is 200 bhp with 350 newton meters of torque. So I'm very, very keen to find out how this pulls, how it drives, and if that really is a massive difference. Because when you think about it, it is half the torque and nearly half the horsepower. So the way this drives may be different. This one also is the 7-seat configuration. There's a few little things that are different inside, like the colour of the interior, a few less buttons, but all in all, it still looks like a very, very top spec EV9, even though this is the entry level, which starts at roughly £64,000. Now, obviously with this not being a dual motor car, there will be some added space in the frunkage. So if we just open that, again, it opens exactly like a boot, very, very good. And in fact, you do get a deeper frunk space. You get 90 litres in this one, as opposed to the 52 in the GT line. So with all those differences out the way, let's jump in and hit the road. Now the first thing that I want to try is the acceleration. In the GT line model, it's 5.3 seconds to 60. In this model, it's 9.4. But like I say, we are down on power. So I'm going to put it in sport. I'm just going to keep my left foot on the brake and I'm just going to edge it forward, and let's go in 3, 2, 1. Yeah, there is a lag there. Still going, still going, still going, still going, and I've reached 60. So it is considerably longer, but it's not that much of a deal breaker. It still feels the same car, just not as fast. The first thing you notice when you get into the Air is there's not a lot that's different. Obviously this interior is a completely different colour, and I want to touch on the interior because Kia have been very aware that cars need to be eco-friendly. There's a massive environmental impact in making a car, like with leather as such, killing cows, taking the hides off them and creating leather. Now this does feel and smell like leather, but I'm told the seats have corn in them to basically reduce the amount of leather needed. The carpets or the floor pans are made from recycled fishing nets, and then the plastics are also polycarbonate. So there's a lot of environmentally friendly materials being used in this car, and you can see, and with using environmentally friendly materials you would expect them to feel cheap. They really don't. With the Air, we're a motor down at the front, and obviously the horsepower is less and the torque is less, but if I put it into sport mode, the seats don't grip you in this car like they do in the GT line. But if I just, it pulls, but it doesn't pull like the other one. There's no harsh acceleration that springs you back in your chair, but it's fast enough. Now in this car, the range is slightly better. It's 350 miles, which brings me on to say, because Kia have kind of made sure that everything still feels premium, you still get a lot of the tech in this car, do you really need to go and spend all the money on the GT line? Well, that is a choice that you'd have to make yourselves. But what I can say, from getting out of the GT line and getting into the Air, there really isn't that much different. Don't get me wrong, the GT line had a couple of things on the seats, a few extra buttons. It had another one over here for like the steering wheel configurations, but you still get the same companion bins, you get the fingerprints, you get the same cameras, the same screen. You pretty much get the same car with a few less tech options, but you still get your lane departure, you get your steering assist, you get your adaptive cruise control, your collision avoidance, you get all the bongs to tell you that you're going over the speed limit. You still get the rear view camera when you flick that. So it makes me think, what is the point in going and spending the extra 15 grand on the top model? One thing I do need to talk about actually is the screens. Now I said earlier in the video it's segregated into 3 screens. There is one gripe and it could all be sorted with a few inches of modification, and I do say all the time every inch matters, especially being a bloke, we all know that. Just in front of me here there is a screen that's quite awkwardly positioned just to like the 10 o'clock view of the steering wheel and above the indicator stalk, and that is how you can control all the aircon. Now it's a quick menu, so it's there so you can just jump onto it. You've not got to go searching for it, which is an improvement because it's a pain in the arse when you just want to turn the aircon on to stop your window steaming up. One of the issues with it is where I'm sat now, I can't see it. I can't see it. I also can't get my hand there because it's in the way of the steering wheel, so you have to do this, turn around and really put your hand there, and you're veering off into a different lane on the road. So that could be drastically improved if it moved over just 2 inches or 50 millimeters. In fact, I'm sat here now and I can't even see what the temperature is in this car. I have to really put my head around the steering wheel to look. So, with the Air, what do I think? I just think it makes the EV9 an even better car, because the reality is you can get it for much cheaper. So you'd be paying 64 grand for this. When you put it up against like the Tesla Model Y, which is slightly cheaper, I think it's worth the stretch, because I said it before and I'll say it again, the Koreans are killing it. So charging with this car, it supports 350 kilowatt charging, or 310 amps if you prefer amps. That's DC, by the way, direct current, not AC. I love talking about things like this because my profession is being an electrician, so the electrical stuff really does sit well with me. So to put that into time, if you're going to charge this at 350 kilowatts from 10% all the way up to 80%, you'll charge this car in 24 minutes, which is amazing. It's still not as quick as filling your car with diesel, but by the time you've waited for a Costa coffee machine to pour your coffee and you've paid at the counter, you're probably pushing on for 15 minutes anyway. So charging is getting faster. However, if you're like most people and you will charge this car at home on a 7.4 kilowatt 32 amp charger, to take this from 10% all the way up to 100% off-peak on an Octopus tariff, it would take roughly 12 hours to charge this car, which isn't bad at all, because the reality is you're not going to be charging it from 10% every day. You'll just plug it in every night and it will stop charging when it's finished charging. There's no compromise on battery size with the Air model either. You still get the 99.8 kilowatt hour battery, which does make me think, why couldn't they squeeze that extra 0.2 of a kilowatt hour to make it 100 kilowatt hours? We'll never know. A statement I want to make, and a rather bold statement it is, I think this is the best looking EV on the road at the moment. Fact. That is what I think. It is the best looking EV on the road at the moment, without a shadow of a doubt. In fact, I'm going to go one further than that. I think it's the best looking SUV on the road at the moment. It does look like an electric version of a Land Rover Defender. A lot of people have said that. However, I think it looks a lot better. So having spent all of my day driving the different models of the EV9, which one would I buy? Now, as much as you may not believe me, it would be this model. Although the other ones, you know, they've got bigger wheels and a few little touchy buttons inside that are different. This one is your best bang for buck. Now at 64k, it might seem a little bit pricey, but when you compare it to the GT line and the GT Line S that are 73 grand onwards and nearly touching 80k at the top end, this is an absolute bargain, and you still get a lot of car, and it isn't really worth spending that amount of money on top. Now that's probably bad for me to say, given that Kia probably want to sell the top end more, but this is the best model and the best one to go with. Let me know what you think in the comments, but in the meantime guys, give us a like and subscribe, or maybe even a follow on Instagram. All my links will be at the end of this video. Make sure you do everything in style, and I'll see you all very soon.